Hey everybody, it's Allison Dorman here, and today we're going to be talking about going outside in the North Texas area and all those questions I get about snakes and mosquitoes and critters and a couple extra things you might not even know about yet. So subscribe and stick around. All right, so this time I'm actually not going to be reading to you. I want to talk to you about flies. So this is kind of a surprise for me. Surprise flies. See how I did that? Just kidding. But we actually have these black flies that are super annoying in this area too. And the good news is they're not out for very long. They just kind of have a short little window. But they are obnoxious. And so they don't bite, they don't bother you, they're just annoying. So they're just kind of little black, I'm gonna call them like house flies, but I'm not really a super, fly girl. So I don't really know what they're called. But just know that there is kind of, again, and that's kind of same like spring, early summer, where we've had a lot of moisture, and then we have some heat after that before things kind of get dried out really well. You do have these black little house flies, and so if you're it's more again if you're outside, maybe by your trash cans and things like that. Some people here keep the trash cans in the garage. Some people keep them kind of in a spot, outside on like a little special pad. So if you can keep them kind of away during that time, then that cuts down on them. I wouldn't put them like right by a door or anything like that. But these flies just kind of get in and you just have to smack them. So one of the things I actually like to give in my closing baskets is a fly swatter. And it's not a super sexy gift, but it's definitely something that you will appreciate when that fly gets into your house. And as long as you just kind of, don't like leave your doors wide open during that window of time that they're kind of popular, it won't be a problem. And there's also little like, remedies that you can put. I think it's actually like wine and dish soap. They're attracted to it and then they get in there and they can't get out. It's not like your house is going to be overrun with flies. You just kind of might have like one or two that get in that annoy the junk out of you and your family for a while. You kill them or they kind of die off in the window and you move on. But I just wanted you to have a heads up that those little black flies kind of get into your house sometimes and they're really annoying. You just smack them, nothing crazy, but we do have those. Fire ants. That's probably the thing that drives me the most crazy here, because our soil actually, and again, maybe it's just because I'm from Georgia and our soil is red. And so when you see a red pile and there's red ants, they're fire ants, fire is red. It's kind of all color coordinated. So it made sense to me. Whereas in Texas, our soil is actually black. And so, or, like a dark gray, whatever. But so when you're walking around, you're doing your thing and you see these small little piles of black dirt, I at first didn't think anything of it because I didn't associate that with fire ants. So I learned that one the hard way. And actually it might've been one of my kids that learned that lesson the hard way, but just now you'll see that, those black little piles is actually typically fire ants. And you do not want to step in them or mess with them. Even if you're a gardener, sometimes they get into your flower beds and you're weeding. This is what happened to my mom, bless her heart. She came out to help us and she was helping me weed a flower bed. And all of a sudden she's like, what? And they had just gotten her on the arms and she had big welts. Some people are a little bit more sensitive to them than others. So just know that if you step in one of those piles, like look down immediately, like shake off your shoes, make sure that there's not any little stray ants and smush them. Like I normally am not a kill nature person, but if there's a fire ant on you, it's okay. You have my permission because they hurt and they leave these tiny little welts. And they're just not fun. So make sure you and your kids or whoever you're with coming to Texas know those black piles of dirt are ants and you don't want to sit in them or step in them. Okay, so next thing I want to talk about are mosquitoes. And I'm going to say the mosquitoes are actually really annoying here. Now, being from a southern state myself, we lived in Georgia for a long time. The mosquitoes there and in Florida and maybe even Louisiana, those are like a whole different level. The Texas ones aren't quite as obnoxious. So kind of depending upon where in the country you're coming from, the mosquitoes here, I'd say, are like normal level. So they are out, especially again in the spring and then in kind of the beginning of the summertime. And so I actually have like a favorite It's pretty all natural, but a really great, I actually have two that I really like. So you can message me if you want to. You want to know my favorite mosquito blocker for Texas. Now, I will say I'm kind of one of those people because I have younger kids that I try to watch the ingredients, so it's not going to be like off. But anyway, if you put on a good mosquito lotion or good mosquito protector, you know, before you kind of go outside and spend a lot of time out there, especially if you're going to be like doing yard work, if you're going to be hiking, even if you're, you know, maybe out at night and you're just going to be, you know, hanging out at the fire pit in the driveway with your neighbors or anything like that, or your family, then you're going to want to put on some of that mosquito lotion or mosquito whatever. Some people also just on their back porches, you know, will have those citronella candles and things like that, or bug zappers, whatever, just to kind of try to keep them at bay. Some people also use a spray for their yard that can just kind of help cut down on the mosquitoes. And I will say what happens here is we get a lot of rain in the spring. And so this kind of in the beginning of spring and summer, the mosquitoes are kind of worse, if you will, because just there's more moisture, and that's obviously what helps them breed. And so for the rest of the time, when it gets farther into the summer and it's just so hot, most puddles and things like that evaporate out pretty quickly. So they don't really have a good spot to grow. But you definitely want to have some mosquito spray or some mosquito lotion, whatever, so that you don't just get eaten alive. All right, so let's just go ahead and just jump right in and talk about snakes, because that's probably the question that I get asked the most as far as critters go. Are there snakes everywhere in Texas? And this isn't really a snake, don't worry, because my husband would lose his absolute mind if I had a snake in our house. So I just kind of did this for fun. He would basically just leave. So he's not a snake person. If there's ever a snake on our property, I will be the one that has to handle it. But anyway, here's what you need to know about snakes. So in the really North Texas area that we're talking about, Prosper, Celina area, if you run into a snake, typically it's not a venomous snake. Just so you know, if you call it poisonous, sometimes people are like, it's not poisonous, it's venomous. So I've tried to train myself to just say venomous. But anyway, we don't really have a lot of venomous snakes here. We do have rattlesnakes and we do have copperheads. But for the most part, what you run into are just rat snakes, sometimes some king snakes. But for the most part, they're the good snakes that just actually take care of the little mice and all the little critters that we don't want to be overrun everywhere. And so typically, if you just leave them alone, they leave you alone. They don't want to mess with you. So for the most part, don't kill snakes. If you're really worried about it, a lot of people will just post on their neighborhood Facebook page, hey, I found this little friend in my front yard or in my backyard. Can someone come just kind of move it? And they will. And I always suggest, like, if you're not a normal snake person who's comfortable with all of that, just don't mess with it at all. And that way you don't have to worry about, is this venomous? Is this not? There's also a Facebook group, and the names change all the time. I'll put the current, link in the description below, but there is a Facebook group that you can post the snake that maybe you saw in your front yard or that you saw kind of slithering around in your backyard, and ask them, is this venomous? Is this not venomous? If it's venomous, obviously you might want to have someone come and take it off your property. But if it's not venomous, personally, I would just leave it alone. Please don't kill snakes, because we really do need them. As much as I know that my husband would probably dislike this video because I said not to kill the snakes, but really they are, necessary. So just kind of have someone take it off your property and check for that Facebook group that talks to you about whether it's venomous or not. But again, for the most part, if you're just kind of walking along, you're just doing your thing, unless you're by a body of water, they're really not that common. They're pretty good about staying away from everybody else. If you're on a hiking trail, if you have a pool, you might have some that kind of get into your drain every now and then, but really for the most part, they stay out of your way. You can stay out of their way. You don't have any stories. So you should be good. Okay, so if you've ever seen the Alfred Hitchcock movie called The Birds, I'm pretty sure it's an Alfred Hitchcock movie. And if you haven't and you Google it, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's a short little time when these blackbirds kind of migrate through our area, and they are so annoying. They don't really, in fact, they don't attack you. They don't hurt you. In fact, they kind of just look at you and be like, do I need to move for you? No, I'm not. So they don't do any harm. In fact, I'm sure it's good because they eat a bunch of ticks, they eat a bunch of mosquitoes, yay birds, but they're just gross. And so you'll come out into the parking lot of the grocery store, or you'll look outside on your neighbor's house, and there will be hundreds of these birds just chilling out, doing their thing. And they don't really get like scared anymore, you know, like you can honk your horn, you can run up on them and they literally just kind of like look at you like, eh. But again, they don't attack you, they don't mess with you, they just aren't really that fazed by you. And so it just kind of is gross and annoying, but it doesn't, again, really do any harm. But it is kind of like the first time you see it, you're like, oh my gosh, like look at all those birds, this is insane. And then you kind of get used to it after a while. And then again, it's just kind of a short little pocket of time when they're passing through, and then, you know, they're out of here. But if you see that outside and you've seen the Alfred Hitchcock movie, don't worry, they're not mean like that. They're just a nuisance, but they do eat a bunch of mosquitoes and things like that. So I guess they're good and they'll move on by, no worries, and you'll be fine. That wasn't really a good bobcat impression or coyote impression. That was kind of more like an angry cat. But I did want to talk to you guys a little bit about coyotes. So this area is getting more and more developed. And so the coyotes are kind of, you know, keep getting bumped out, but just know that we do have coyotes in this area. Again, this used to be kind of wide open farmland. And it's kind of just now beginning to pick up the pace with development and things like that. And so they're kind of losing their home, if you will, and kind of having to figure out where to go next. And so I just wouldn't advise maybe, you know, if someone in your neighborhood says, hey, you know, we saw a coyote running around the neighborhood today, like, and you have a tiny little dog that's like a coyote snack, just don't, especially at night, I wouldn't just leave it outside and let it go to the bathroom, especially if you live either on land or especially if you live maybe on a house that has lots of land, but that has, you know, like not a house behind it. Maybe you have, you know, a farm or something else where there's a little bit more nature involved. Just kind of be aware of coyotes and small pets. So again, it's not like we live in an area where they're just coyotes just running around like eating small children and eating small pets or anything crazy like that. I don't want to scare you, but I just want you to be aware that we do have them here. Not a major problem at all, but just something to keep on your radar if you have a small pet. Just kind of use your brain on that. Kind of watch out for any Facebook posts in your neighborhood about one being out. But you know, if you're walking around outside, for the most part, again, they don't bother you. They see you and they run off. Again, not a major problem, just letting you know. Okay, y'all, I'm going to share with you a lesson that we learned the hard way. Now, obviously, you're not going to be at construction sites like we are as realtors, but I just want you to know, and part of the pedicure I really need. But see these shoes? I have to be careful in this Texas mud because it's got a lot of clay in it. And let's just say we've had to throw away some shoes before because we were playing out in the dirt and it could be grass when it's rained and gotten muddy. And it just, like I said, hardens, almost like concrete level. And if you don't like clean your shoes immediately after your kids or you get them muddy, then that stuff can harden and be really, really difficult to get off later. So I know you've been staring at mud for a few minutes, but I just wanted you to know, like, it is kind of clay based underneath and you can see how hard this is. So if your shoes get muddy, clean it off right away and then you won't be sad. Or actually, if you want new shoes, that's a good excuse. Pretend like they, you know, got really muddy and you just have to throw them out now and buy a new pair. Okay, so if after watching this video, you still aren't completely mortified about moving to North Texas, then come on. We are a great place to live. It's a wonderful area. I promise you, you're not gonna get carried away by some pterodactyl mosquito or, you know, swallowed whole by some crazy venomous snake. These things are relatively mild here. It's all good. So just remember that one of the things I absolutely love doing is helping people kind of settle into this area and find, you know, their best house, their best whatever. And so you're welcome to just shoot me an email or shoot me a text, give me a phone call, and I'm happy to be your local resource for you. And I might even share my bug spray. So make sure you check out our next video and subscribe. I would actually love it if you shared this video with somebody you know that's moving here so that they know all the critter things that they need to. So see you guys next video.